I took delivery of the Lithionics batteries that came for me by truck freight, and this is what they look like individually. This is the 320 battery, and this is the new Boss 302 battery. So I'm gonna unbox these and we'll see what it looks like. We'll see how Lithionics package these when they send them to you. Okay, so this Boss battery, they wrapped in bubble wrap. And the 320 battery, they use very dense foam to protect it in shipment. So when we get this out of here, this is what Boss battery looks like in its shipping. Very well packed. So now I'm going to get these out of here so we can take a closer look at them. Hi, I'm Sandy, and give a little introduction to myself. I own a 2014 Unity Murphy bed, and I've had it since new. So come this July, it's going to be 9 years old. And from the time that I bought it, I've done everything myself. All the maintenance, all the repairs, modifications, whatever has to be done, I learned how to do it. I'm a mechanical engineer by education, and I spent my entire career in the nuclear industry, so basically nuclear engineering would be my career. So I have a lot of technical capability, which I applied to my Unity when I bought it. I didn't think that would be the case, but these moving hotel rooms on wheels, you know, stuff goes wrong. So you have to learn how to maintain it and deal with it when things happen. The other thing I have enjoyed doing is upgrading my Unity Murphy bed. I strove throughout my whole 9 years of ownership to create something that was easy to use, comfortable, and more worry-free. I hate having to worry about things, and certainly batteries are the #1 thing that people worry about. So when I started with my Unity, I had lead acid batteries, flooded wet cells, so I had to put water in them. And then, you know, of course, I killed those a number of times, had to replace them a number of times. Basically, lots of heartache with those flooded wet cell battery. And then I switched to AGM lead acid batteries. Those were a little bit better because they're maintenance free, but you still have the same issues as you do with the flooded wet cell battery, that you can only use them down about 50%. If you use them down further than that, you know, you can damage them. And of course, you know, that's not very much power. So if you have, you know, 200 amp hour set of lead acid batteries, you only really have 100 amp hours of usable battery power, which isn't really a lot, particularly when the Dometic refrigerator takes, you know, almost 20 amps per hour just to cool. So, you know, lead acid batteries definitely don't last long. So when I discovered Lithionics batteries, which that's what I have in front of me here, They are lithium batteries, and lithium batteries you can use all the way down to 0. So, you know, the more battery power you have, you know, the more runtime you have for the things that you really want to use. And then when I realized that these basically very compact batteries can run an air conditioner off a 3,000 watt inverter, I, you know, thought I hit the lottery. I mean, at the time when I started camping, I had 4 little dogs, and I wanted to always make sure they were comfortable and cool. And I always had to run the generator if we ever stopped to do that. But once I found these Lithionics batteries and I switched out my inverter to a 3,000 watt inverter, you know, my life got the comfort of using, the ease and comfort of using my Unity, you know, increased like 100 times, because all I had to do was turn the thermostat on and the air conditioner came on and my little dogs could stay cool while I was moving around, you know, sightseeing or whatever. Anyway, so these Lithionics batteries definitely made my life worry-free, a lot more worry-free. I didn't have to worry about the batteries because I knew I had plenty of power. These batteries are smart. They can take care of themselves even when the human doesn't exactly know how to do everything. You know, they have their own safety features. They can shut themselves off if they get too hot, too cold, if there's too much amps being drawn, if somehow something happened and they short-circuited. I mean, it has these Lithionics battery, the BMS, the battery management system inside of these things have, you know, more than 24 safety parameters that, you know, function automatically to protect the battery. So the battery can definitely take care of itself. The other wonderful thing about these batteries is for their compact size, you get so much more power. Like this battery right here, this is the 320 battery. This battery is 320 amp hours. It actually measures out when Lithionics tests these, and they test every one of these after they hand assemble it. They test it for, you know, flammability, pressure, you know, nothing leaks, is completely sealed. This is marine, or not marine, military grade. This is a military grade aluminum case. I mean, this thing is virtually indestructible. And, you know, and that, I love that feature. I love that, you know, it's rugged, it's smart, it can take care of itself from a safety perspective. It meets, you know, UL listing standard 1973, which is a more more stringent requirement that batteries must pass to be UL listed. It's the BMS. It has the UL listing has requirements for the safety and the quality of the battery management system, for testing. You know, so many features that this battery conforms to, and you know, that makes me feel safe and confident having this in my Unity. So anyway, so this compact size is 320 amp hour, and it basically measures at 325 amp hours, and you can run it all the way down to 0. Another thing about this battery is it's very powerful. The quality of the cells are such that the voltage stays very high even while you're running high loads. So when I'm running the air conditioner and I want to run this thing all the way down to 0, if that's what I choose to do, using the air conditioner, which is the highest demand appliance you have in your coach, the battery voltage on this never drops below 12.7 volts, all the way to 0. And what that means is you can run a higher load at less amps because the amperage is higher. And if you consider like Watt's law, watts equals volts times amps. Watts is a power unit. And if you use your air conditioner, it takes your air conditioner 1,600 watts. Your air conditioner needs around 1,600 watts to operate. So watts equals volts times amps. So if the 1,600 is fixed and you divide it by a high voltage number, the amps are lower. So it takes less amps. This battery requires, because it maintains such a high voltage throughout its entire life cycle of running, 13.4 volts to 12.7 volts, under demand. That's not just sitting. That's when the air conditioning is running. Because the voltage does drop when you have a high load on it. But the lowest the voltage ever goes on this with high loads is 12.7 volts, all the way to 0. So that means you can run your air conditioner longer than with other, say those smaller 100 amp hour batteries. And that, that's fabulous, because to me this is a drop-in, single solution. So this fits in my Unity battery box. It fits perfectly. Gives me basically 325 measured amp hours of power. And having just one of these, if I was in my Unity and I was running the air conditioner, I could put it on 74, 75, and I could get over 4 hours of air conditioner operation with this one battery. If I were to raise the thermostat like to 79 and pull all my shades, darken the inside of the coach, to keep the heat infiltration, and get 5 to 6 hours of air conditioner runtime off this battery. So so that's fabulous. I mean, that's exactly what I was looking for, to to keep my dogs comfortable and keep myself comfortable. Keep myself comfortable if anything ever happened. Okay, so this is the 320 battery, and this is the Lithionics new Boss 302 battery. This battery, even though it's called Boss 302, which is a catchy name that Lithionics came up with, and here's their little Boss logo. This battery measures out at 310 amp hours. So you could see when I did the little comparison video before I started explaining these batteries, you could see how the size compared. And you can see from here, this battery is about 14.5 inches long. This battery is 20 1/4 inches long. The thickness of this battery fits perfectly in the Unity battery box at it's about 6.5 inches wide. And to the top of the battery terminal, where you have your lugs connected, is about 11 inches. So, again, this fits perfectly in the Unity battery box. What's amazing about this one is, as I said, it's 14.5 inches long, it's 8.5 inches wide, and it's 11 inches, still 11 inches tall. Now this is 310 amp hours, measured amp hours of capacity. And this will actually fit in a Wonder battery compartment very well. Most of the Wonders have their batteries installed next to the inverter. Then the Wonder rear twin bed has the battery box in the back garage. This will fit in that. This will fit, next to the inverter. I mean, essentially this battery is about the size of a typical 100 amp hour lithium battery. So, easily this 310 amp hour battery can go in any of the battery compartment spaces that Wonders have. This won't fit in the Unity because, as I said, a Unity, probably the maximum a Unity battery box can handle is maybe 7.5 inches. So this is 6.5, this is 8.5, so this will not fit. But this is a great size to go in a Wonder to give you the power that you need to run a 3,000 watt inverter. And remember, 3,000 watt inverters require more than 300 amp hours of battery to run them, because of what's called capacitive inrush. The inverter, it has capacitors inside, and it will immediately fill those capacitors up like in milliseconds. And so if you don't have a greater than 300 amp hours of lithium batteries coupled with that inverter, you can actually damage the internal battery management system, the BMS, the brain of the battery. So you always want to have a minimum of 300 amp hours if you ever install lithium batteries with 3001 inverter. Okay. Okay, so some things to talk about on the top of the battery. So under each one, these are these cover your lugs once you make a connection. So under each one of these is the actual terminal of the battery. And they give you a little bolt and lock washer that screws into the top, and that's where you put your lug, and you screw into the top of it. And the beautiful thing about a Lithionics 320 about a Lithionics battery is it can actually connect right to the coach lugs. So if I take one of these out of here, I can show you how they're supposed to connect. Okay, so if this is the coach negative terminal, or the negative cable, you've disconnected it, your old battery, and this is hooked back under the battery box to the coach. Then you just put this on top and make sure the lock washer is on top, and just screw in the bolt and tighten it like you do a battery, and that's all it takes to connect. The same with the positive cable on the positive side. Very simple to install in the Unity battery box, or for the Boss battery in the Wonder. You just use the existing coach cables. And then, I should have threaded this on before, but basically you thread on this cap to the end so then you attach this, tighten it up, use your 13mm socket wrench, tighten it, and then you simply slide this down and snap it into place. There, that covers it. Now, when you tighten it, you can move the cable and it should not move. That's how you know you have it tight. If it moves a little bit like this, then you didn't get it tight enough. So, the connections must be tight. Not gorilla tight, but tight enough to where they don't move for the best power connections. Okay, so that shows you how easy it is to connect your coach cables to the battery. Now the next thing is this little button is the power button, and this little cap right here, if you pry it off, let me get something to pry it off. Well, I'll use the Boss battery. Anyway, for each of these batteries, you can order an optional cord to have a remote power button. So here's the power button on the case, but say, like in a Wonder, you're gonna put this in the compartment right next to the inverter. Well, it's gonna be very hard for you to reach your hand into the compartment and manipulate this button. So you can order, when you order your battery, you can order this extra remote battery cable, battery switch cable, and these just plug in together. You have a little V shape here, and you have a V shape there, so you just plug it in together, They snap together. Yeah, they don't move. This part doesn't matter, so you can zip tie this. We don't use these purple wires, so you can tape or zip tie it, you know, so you don't have them flapping around. And then you just push it into that connection. And again, you know, it's a clip, so there's only one way to do it. Clip, clip to clip. You just push it in. And now, this button, this is your remote battery switch. It has a nut on it, so you can drill a hole if you want to install it on a piece of wood or a piece of metal, you know, to have it, you know, on the outside of your compartment so it's easy to reach. They give you plenty of cord, so if you want to relocate it, say to inside the coach next to the house battery switch, you could do that. And then that way you have a remote battery switch and you don't have to worry about trying to deal with this switch that's on top of the case. And then you can see with this remote battery switch, you'll be able to see what's going on with the battery, because when we turn this on, you'll see this lights up blue, and then this gives you different indications. Like a slow blink means the battery is charging. A faster blink means there's a fault and you need to see, you know, what your error code is. So the way the switch flashes does give you indications for either battery charging or something's going on with the battery. So you do want to be able to, you know, see and, you know, easily look at it for any kind of messages it might be sending you. Okay, so I have my Lithionics app on. I downloaded it. So now we can actually turn these batteries on, and this should pick it up. So I'm going to turn the 320 battery on. And you can see the blue light. That means it's powered. There's nothing going on, no charging. It's just powered on. And the same with the Boss battery. And you have to hold it for 3 seconds. So same with the Boss battery, it's on. Okay, and if I come over to my Lithionics app and say discover, there they are. So then I can open one up. And then we see the information on the battery. So this battery, this is a 207. So this battery is 209. Okay, so this screen is showing us what's going on for the Boss battery. It's shipped from Lithionics at 95% state of charge. So when we install this, one of the first things we want to do is fully charge the battery. And we can use the inverter battery charger, solar, but so you want to, you know, charge the battery once you get it installed and you have it working in your system. So then this tells you everything you want to know about the battery. It's right now it's sitting at 13.29 volts. There's no current, and this current is net. So it's the difference of what's going out and what's coming in. So if you're using the battery and you have, like, say, solar, you know, you're boondocking, you're using your battery, you have solar coming in, this will tell you what the net is. So if it's red, that means the net is, it's drawing more amperage, more battery power than the battery charging that's coming into it. If it's green, it means there's more battery charging going on than what's being used. And that's the good thing. That's where you want to be. You really want to see green if at all possible. But if you're boondocking and running the air conditioner, of course, you know, your solar can't give you that much power. So you will see a red number there. Then The power number would be the amount of power in watts that's being used. The state is battery on, or it'll say charging, or it'll give you a code. Then you have the battery temperature. The battery temperature is important because, I forgot to mention, these have internal automatic heaters, both of these batteries. So the battery temperature is important because you can use a battery at freezing or below, but you can't charge a lithium battery at freezing or below. It can damage the battery. So, of course, you don't want to use it if you can't recharge it. But with the heaters that are in each of these, they're automatic. You don't have to worry. If the temperature drops below 32, then the heaters are going to kick on, and they're going to keep the battery at a temperature of between 35 and 40 degrees, and it's going to require 1 amp per hour to run the heater, which is definitely something your solar can keep up with if you ever need your heater. So having the built-in automatic internal heaters for these is a great feature because, again, it's worry-free. You don't have to worry about it. And the heater inside these batteries will maintain the temperature all the way down to -4. So you can definitely do some cold weather camping with these batteries if you want to. All right, what else? Oh, time remaining. If we were actually using something, we were using current, what the time remaining is basically at the level of current that's being used, how much time you would have before the battery gets down to its first cutoff setting, which is the NeverDie Reserve. That's 10%. And then, of course, we have the status code, which takes you, if there was a code there, but 0, there's no code. So if we had a code, we could go to this screen, and any one of these safety parameters, if it was tripped, it would be red, and then you would understand, what happened to your battery. If swipe over, you will get this screen with lots and lots more data. And most people don't even use this screen, but I do use it because I like to, look at the amp hours if I'm really trying to see, how many amp hours have I used, how many do I have left. You can look at your cell voltage. I mean, this gives you plenty of data. But one of the things that's really important is there's aging factors. Let's see, where's the other one? And there's actually a counter. Last status code, total consumed. So basically, Lithionics, you have this information that is available to you, as well as Lithionics, if you ever had any issues with your battery. And so the bottom line is, Lithionics warranties a battery not for time, but these batteries, lithium batteries can definitely last longer than 10 years. And in fact, Lithionics has, batteries in the field that are, well over 11 or 12 years old, since they've been in existence as a company. But what they warranty is cycles and time. So all this information is kind of like the generator runtime counter. This is the same thing. This keeps count of all the cycles, of all the status codes, of all the events, of all the temperatures, of everything that happens to your battery throughout its entire life. And if need be, you can actually go and download on the Lithionics YouTube channel. They tell you how to do a data download. So if there was something wrong, they would ask you to send them this data download so they can study it and really understand what's going on with your battery to give you the best advice. But I've never had to do that. I don't know anybody who has had to do it. There was one person that had to do it, but it turned out it wasn't because there was anything wrong with the battery. There was a firmware issue, and Lithionics told them how to correct that, and everything was fine. So another thing that I recommend people do when they first turn on the battery is to check the firmware, because another great feature of this battery is for the lifetime of the battery, Lithionics will continue to refine and do software firmware changes, and they will broadcast those out so every owner can keep their battery the most up to date with the technology and the methodology that they use to have these batteries run at their peak performance. So you want to check, and this says your firmware is up to date. So periodically you want to go and hit this little firmware update button and check and make sure that your firmware is the most up to date with where Lithionics is. Here's another status code reader. You could actually custom name your battery, which I recommend doing that because the serial numbers, they don't really mean a lot. So I do like to change the name so I know, especially in multiple battery installations. So if I have one in the step and, one next to the inverter, I name them so you know who's where, or, or in the case of a Wonder, my, battery 1 and 2, whatever your nomenclature is, but you can name them. You can always also do a pin number. So, in the world where everybody's got Bluetooth stuff going on, and you don't want anybody to have access to your battery, to look at it, whatever, you can put a security pin so it's, for your eyes only. And that, some people want to do that. So anyway, so there's a number of things, you can do to set it up the way you want it. And all that information is on the Lithionics YouTube channel. They actually have videos that show you how to do, change your name, change the PIN code, update the firmware, whatever you want to do. And then, here's the 320 battery. 320 battery is at 90, this battery is at 99%, 13.67 volts. Same temperature, which you would expect that to be the same temperature as this battery. And one is a battery temperature and one is a BMS temperature. The BMS, like I said, is the battery monitoring system. And because Lithionics batteries have very little internal resistance, the BMS temperature only rises a slight amount when you're running heavy loads. So I'm going to say maybe 10 degrees at the most, typically. And what's good about that, I think we're done with this. What's good about that is the heat isn't inside the battery, because it has these batteries have virtually zero internal resistance. So that means there's, the wiring and everything is producing it's very efficient, producing very minimum heat necessary to supply the power to to running the air conditioner, your highest load thing. And that's another, nice feature, because internal heat is the thing that damages lithium batteries, one of the main big things that can damage lithium batteries. So because this has such low internal resistance, Lithionics uses the system to create resistance externally to make sure that it runs within the safety parameters of wiring and switches and fuses and things like that within your system. So one of the things, I'm going to go ahead and turn these batteries off. You press and hold it long enough. So press and hold it for 3 to 5 seconds. until the light turns out. Okay, so anyway, as I was saying, the important feature about not having the resistance inside the battery, but using your system design to create the necessary resistance to manage, you know, the very high amperage that we're dealing with in battery and inverter systems, is this, one of the things is the size of a wire. So as I said before, this is the same battery cable that Leisure uses in their battery compartments. It's a 2/0 2/0 sized wire. So anyway, so you can connect the battery to the standard Leisure cabling, and the inverter cabling that's like in the 2020 and newer Leisure travel vans. The cable that Leisure uses from the 2000 from their 2,000 watt inverter, Xantrex inverter, to the mega fuse block in the battery box, which then the positive cable comes off of the main terminal of that block and hooks to your battery. All of that is 2/0 wire. And so this little smaller wire creates more resistance than a larger wire. You think of it as a water pipe. You know, if this is a 1/2-inch water pipe, you know, water's going to flow a little bit slower because of the resistance of the pipe, versus a larger, like a 1-inch diameter pipe, where the water's going to flow. You're going to get more flow, faster flow. So these batteries use the resistance that you create by using a little smaller cable to manage the safety features and the power for the whole system. And that's, that's the advantage of that is, this is much smaller and much lighter than what you have to use with, other lithium batteries. Other lithium batteries require a much bigger cable. This is 4/0 cable. And you can see right on the end of it how much bigger it is than a 2/0 cable. So if for the people who have, like, if this is 300 amp hours, then you'd have 3 little 100 amp hour batteries daisy chained together. You have to daisy chain them together with this heavier wire, and this heavier wire needs to be connected to the inverter, because the internal of those batteries have so much resistance. They need a bigger, basically a larger diameter pipe to get stuff to flow, because they have all the resistance inside. So you have to go with a larger cable, and these are a lot heavier. I mean, look at the size of this compared to this. This is a lot heavier. What that also means is you have to have extra stuff. You have to have, a heat gun. You have to have heat shrink. You have to have, much bigger lugs to go on these cables. I mean, look at the size difference of the lugs to go with these cables versus what you use with a Lithionics battery. And all these 2/0 cables, that's what Leisure already uses in the 2020 and newer. So it's so easy to replace your batteries in your step box with this one battery, because you just connect it to the existing cables of your coach. You don't have to change anything about the inverter. You don't have to change any wiring, fuses. It's all set up, and this works perfectly with the existing system. And still, if you want to go to a 3,000 watt inverter, again, because the Lithionics battery wants resistance in the system, you don't have to change. The only thing you have to change to go to a 3,000 watt inverter is the inverter. So you take out the Xantrex 2,000 watt inverter and you swap in, you put in the 3,000 watt inverter. Everything, all the connections, everything exactly the same. You reuse them. I mean, it's so easy. to do a 3,000 watt inverter upgrade in the newer 2020 and newer leisure travel vans. The other things you need a big heavy crimper. You need a big heavy wire cutter to cut this cable. I mean, if you have, for people who are interested in simplicity, I mean, you can either just have one battery, one Lithionics battery to do the job, or you have to use all this stuff and more. You have to have a shunt. You have to have, if you want a battery heater, you know, and maybe the lithium, the little 100 amp hour batteries have a battery heater, like the ones Leisure uses in their lithium battery option. But it has to have power to the battery heater. It has to have a switch. So that's the same thing. So you have to have, you know, a separate power supply for the heater. It's manual. You have to have a switch. You have to turn it on. I mean, it's so complicated. If you want to, you know, try to daisy chain a whole bunch of little 100 amp hour batteries together to create the same power that you can get in this one battery. And like I said, my quest is always to find the easiest, worry-free, automatic. I mean, when I'm using my Unity, I don't want to be worrying about the batteries, about settings, about switches, you know, what's the temperature? Do I got to turn the heater on? You know, I don't want to worry. And I don't have to worry with these Lithionics batteries. Now, I don't get paid by anybody. I mean, I don't take money from anybody that I help. I don't take money from Lithionics, from Xantrax, from Victron, from, you know, all the components that I have found that work the best, most efficient, and give you the best worry-free systems in your leisure travel vans. I'm just telling people about these because, you know, they changed my enjoyment level for my Unity. And if I can share that with other people to where they have more enjoyment in using their Unity and less worry, and, you know, I mean, that's what it's all about. We want to enjoy our leisure travel vans, travel our beautiful country, and, you know, not be frustrated and worried. And that's what these batteries give you. That's what these Lithionics batteries give you. They give you peace of mind and freedom to do the things that you want to do and be spontaneous, stop, turn on the air conditioner, whatever you need to do. It's, you know, they're wonderful. Anyway, so I just wanted to show people, you know, the difference between these two size batteries. This Boss battery is great for Wonder owners. This 320 battery is perfect for Unity owners. It fits perfectly in the battery box. There's, you know, multiple battery applications if you're interested in that. And, you know, I have guides on the Sprinter Source forum. I have my guides on the Leisure LTV Enthusiast and Upgrades Facebook group. So, you know, I've written all kinds of things to help people understand how to, you know, install Lithionics batteries, how to do Xantrax inverter upgrades, how to, you know, change out solar controllers for the high quality Victron solar controller, better solar panels from the flex panels to, you know, high quality BougeRV glass panels. I mean, you know, I use a variety of, you know, manufacturers because I go, you know, I'm trying to go with the best. For example, I use Serenity glass solar panels. As soon as, you know, people started reporting to me what their performance was with their BougeRV glass panels, I switched to those because they outperform their specs. I mean, you can get as much as 20% more solar power use from solar power harvest from those same size glass panels. So why not go with those? Anyway, okay, so that's all I had for this segment.